So we're here at this is the Arizona Phoenix Bitcoin Meetup, and we're in Tempe, Arizona, here at the Boulders on Broadway, where we hold meetings usually once or twice a month here. And my name is Morpheus, and I'm one of the, I guess I don't want to say I'm an expert, because an expert is an X is a has-been, and a spurt is a drip under pressure. So I don't really consider myself an expert. Anyway, but I like to talk about promoting Bitcoin and how we can move the ball down the field, because we absolutely know that Bitcoin works. It's based on a tried and true hashing algorithm that was developed by the NSA, and this, as far as we know, it's uncrackable. I mean, I think if it was capable of being cracked, we'd probably already be cracked by now. And so, in order for Bitcoin to continue and become a more force in the world, it just comes down to promoting Bitcoin. And I got this quote from Margaret Mead, who said that never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed people can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. And so in order to understand the whole Bitcoin, at least, you know, my reasoning of it is we live in a controlled environment. Our whole entire system of social economic system is entirely controlled. And the banks own the government. The government makes the laws to support the banks and themselves. Government has a monopoly on violence, and the school system is funded by the government. And the media is the choir boys for the government and for the banks, and also another organization called the Board, which is banks, organized religion, and government. And there's a quote I got from Albert Einstein that says, the ruling class has schools and the press under its thumb. This enables it to sway the emotions of the masses. And you look at how mass hypnosis and the paradigms of how we live our lives, you know, it's evident that they are using our subtle emotions to control people. Now, Bitcoin, is a counterculture to this oppressive regime of control. And anything that threatens the legitimacy of the banks or the government first will be ignored. Anything that can't be ignored will be regulated. Anything that can't be regulated, regulation won't destroy, will be taxed. And once that industry is successful, that industry gets subsidies and more regulation to discourage any competition. However, with Bitcoin, what we have is a situation that this Bitcoin is completely outside of the realm of the government and all the forces that they have, because it exists everywhere and nowhere. So there's not like pinch points for them to attack at. Whereas if they want to get rid of someone or something, they just find out who's the biggest mark, and they go after them. They throw you in jail and take all your stuff, and now you got to fight them, and it's going to be very difficult to win because they have the monopoly on violence. Now the media, because they're the choir boys for the government, and the government is the whipping boy of the banks, the media is not going to do anything to help us out. The media is here to maintain the status quo, and they promote whatever the board tells them to do. And they're mainly interested in promoting bad news about the internet. For example, for the most part, what kind of messages do you see on the news about Bitcoin? It's hacked.
It's a scam.
It's a scam. What else?
Ponzi scheme.
A Ponzi scheme.
Thanks, Gary Noel.
They also do assassinations. Also, one of the other things that I saw was it was the worst investment of 2014, and so they know they can't get at it through a breaking or some kind of internal crack being found. So what they go is they use this psychological motivation to get people to control the masses, because they can't. I mean, for them, they really have to do their best to ignore this thing that they might not have ever seen coming. And so they have to do what they can to go after the psychological way until they can figure out how do we get a handle on this thing. Either, and I don't know, who knows how they're going to do that, but that's, time will tell. And in my estimation, what needs to occur is we have to, by promoting it, the faster we promote it, the harder it's going to be for them to go after it. For example, if 2014 had been a repeat of 2013, oh my God, I think everybody'd be in by now. Because we'd probably be at 5,000, 10,000, who knows how many thousands of dollars per Bitcoin. And for the masses, they're just looking at, well, hey, how is this going to help me? And they don't see it as like the technology that's going to help them. It's just like they're very, they want immediate gratification, so the rising price for them is a good way of showing what this product actually does. So being the media isn't going to help us. We have to be the media ourselves. So what I like doing is strike up conversations with people. If I see somebody that looks like they got more than one or two brain cells to rub together, hey, have you heard about Bitcoin? And even if they don't have brain cells, I want to find out, at least plant the idea that this thing exists. Get in the three-dimensional world. For example, when I did the presentation, I had a booth at the Home and Garden show here in Phoenix in January, and there was quite a few people that said, wow, this is the first time I've seen this information here in the three-dimensional world, as opposed to being on the internet. And I don't know how much value that, what value that gave to people. But if you've heard about something and it's only been on the internet, and now you're talking about this to people in the three-dimensional world, it's gonna impact them like, oh wow, this is actually not just on the internet. And I had a lot of, I hate to bring up politics, but I have a lot of experience with this when the Ron Paul was running for president, because everybody thought it was just on the internet. Now we were going out in the streets and meet people, and it was like impactful for them to meet with people that actually had this passion about this guy, at least at that time, and now with Bitcoin, is a way for them to be influenced, because the government and the media, they spend who knows how many billions or trillions of dollars between the school system and all the media, as you see, and now, I don't know if everybody's noticing, but now we have all the billboards that are now, they're changing, we get to have rotating billboards, so you can't even travel around with being influenced by this mechanism to influence us. And when you go to the store, I like to ask them, did you buy everything? Did you guys take Bitcoin? How long before you guys are starting to take Bitcoin? Whether they've heard, if I've been in there one time or 100 times, hey, have you guys heard of talking, did you know about Bitcoin? And just the repetition, it's like they're seeing hundreds of customers a day. They may not remember that it was me that asked them 3 days ago, but now they've heard it, they've heard it, and now maybe they'll, hey, boss, hey, we had another guy asking about this Bitcoin thing. And really, when you think about it, this is a really good way for businesses to expand their markets, because they have zero fees. It's impossible to have a fraudulent transaction, and then they get a group of people coming into their business who want to spend some money. I mean, I know I got some money on my phone, and it's like, if there's a guy that wants to take Bitcoin, I'm going to go there. The two parties are the same, and even if I have to spend a little more, well, I'm spending my Bitcoins because I want to reward them for doing something that I think is necessary that needs to be done. So one of the things that you can do is, if there's a booth at your church or association where you can set up a booth, hey, let's do a booth. I got lots of gear. If someone wants me to, I'll be more than happy to help out. I got a Bitcoin banner I made. Makes it more impressive when you have some signage, and I have, there's all kinds of gear that can be sold at any kind of booth. And I can't, I've done, I think it was like I've done four different booths with Bitcoin. So, and it's not like overwhelming the results I'm getting, but at the point where we're at is we're talking about brand awareness. It's like we're showing them something that never existed before, and the we don't have multi-million dollars worth of budget to market this product, so you have to go into the streets and talk to people person to person. Also, Bitcoin Summit is 3/14, and it's bitcoinsummit.com. And the other thing I like to doing is, I like being in uniform. I have something that has Bitcoin on it, and then people see it, and maybe it strikes up a conversation, maybe it doesn't, but at least, hey, I'm out there planting the image or the idea of Bitcoin in their mind, even if it's just on a subconscious level, because people receive so many thousands of messages every day that the chance of them picking up on yours is very low. But hey, at least I planted the seed. Maybe someone else is gonna, someone else will tell them about it in the future, or we're moving the ball down the field. So having some swag, I call it swag, is great to be able to promote this stuff, because now if you're walking around, hey, you got your shirt on, you got your pin on, you got a sticker on. It's a good way to start marketing. In fact, when I was at the shows, what I do is after I get done talking to people, I take a sticker and stick it on their shirt and say, hey, now you know more about it than anybody else you know. Because I read somewhere that about 50% of the population has heard about it, like on a poll, and they said about 6% of the people actually have some. I don't know if that's how accurate that is. I'd say the 50% is probably pretty close, and then 6%, who knows. But as we move further, as this picks up more and more momentum, it's only going to continue to get bigger and bigger, and it's like the duplicating, the geometric progression. It's like if you have a bacteria and you put it in a petri dish, and it doubles every minute, and it'll completely fill the petri dish in 1 hour. At what time is it half full? Does anyone know? You don't answer it. Does anyone have any idea?
Probably 90% of the time after.
Well, it's actually in 59 minutes.
Yeah, so 95% of the time.
Right. So, but most people, but it doesn't seem like it's very big until last couple minutes. So this is how this thing can, as we talk to people and share with people what the value of it is. Maybe one or two of them will share it with somebody else, and now it's like, I look at it's kind of like a multi-level without the multi-level part. It has no central authority, which is great, because anytime you have a business that you only have one customer, that's not really a business at all, or one customer or one vendor, and this allows you to have unlimited customers and vendors. And then the other cool thing, at least for me, is that when the people that I've noticed that get involved in Bitcoin are much higher on the intelligence level than the average bell-shaped curve of everybody else that's out there. The people who have more information as far as what's really going on in the world.
Gentlemen,
How are you?
yeah.
And so, just asking people, this is, do you accept Bitcoin? Have you heard about Bitcoin? On these, and then these are online. Send emails to businesses that that you want to do business with, and say, hey, I want to pay you in Bitcoin. Do you accept Bitcoin? And because these businesses are actually they're losing out, because there's a lot of people who don't even have a credit card or debit card, or they're unbanked. And how are they going to pay? Well, if you show them a way where people can pay and then get more customers, and it doesn't cost them anything to get started, there's no transaction fees, and it's impossible to have a fraudulent charge, they're improving their businesses. So when I was selling cars, they taught me FAB, and it's called Feature, Advantage, Benefit. So the feature is the current money system sucks. The advantage is the digital age is here, and the benefit is Bitcoin works better. It just does. So when I'm talking to people, and you get them in a conversation, first they have to understand what is the problem. I mean, and many people, they may think there's a lot of problems out there in the world, but they don't really understand what the problem is. And the problem is currently we have a centralized nationalistic money system. And the legacy money is controlled by the government and a private bank. And by controlling the money system, they're able to socially, economically control human beings. And these people are not elected. Not that I really give a lot of credence to election, but at least there is, if they are elected, they have some way of being gotten rid of if we don't like what they do, at least supposedly. But most of these people are not elected. And so when I'm talking to people, I like to find out where they're at. What do they know? Because then if they say, when you ask them, have you heard about Bitcoin? They'll say either yes or no. And if they do say yes, I want to find out what they know, because from what I've been able to determine is most of the information they have is false or mislead, is directed at being incorrect. And so find out what they know. And then I would even say, do you know how the media slants information? And they'll say yes. Most people would agree that the media does slant information. And would you agree that we live in a controlled society? And very rarely do I get someone that even asking that question that would not agree with that. And then listen to their response, and then get them to talk before you start going in with pounding on them on Bitcoin. Is get them, build some kind of relationship with the people as far as what their concerns are, what they think, because people like to be heard, and most people, the information is, if they wanted your opinion, we'd be giving it to you. So when you open the door for them to give you what they know, they'll feel more of a bond between you, because hey, you're giving them the ability, you're giving them the stage and the lights and the camera to go out and be heard. And then listen to their response and get them to talk about it will make you like them more, and then address their concern. It's been used, well, people use it to buy drugs. Well, people use cash to buy drugs. I mean, how is that any different? Oh, well, people have been assassinated with it. Oh, well, that happens all the time with the current money system, so how is that any different? And just address your concerns. And then usually, if you can, maybe even ask them what else they've heard, because sometimes people will give you the reason and then you have the real reason. So ask them, well, what else have you heard? And dispel those concerns. So the effects of the problem are, from this creation of money through this organized criminal organization, is we have warfare, welfare, bank bailouts, inflation, and the costs of things continuing to rise. Things become more and more difficult when they should actually be becoming easier. They have to work harder and harder to get what they want. And when you consider, like say the cost of what we buy, what is the cost of that purchase in terms of the mortgage or the rent at this facility? Well, it's probably a fairly large percentage, and then the percentage of someone's labor is actually being used to support their mortgage, so they have a place to live. So I mean, that's usually one of the biggest concerns that most people have. But the reason why we have these gigantic mortgages and rents and so forth is because they're inflating the money system. If you had a system where we have a system of money that things go down in value, well, if a baby's born, you give them $100 worth of Bitcoin, by the time they're 18, they can go buy a house. You don't have to have all these systems in place to be able to, for people to have these systems in place just for them to be able to afford housing. And then I might talk a little about the Federal Reserve. And the beautiful thing about Bitcoin is it gives you a platform to be able to share information that maybe they have heard, or or they don't understand. And the Federal Reserve basically is just a very, very, very expensive accounting service created in 1913. Now in 1913, milk was 32 cents a gallon, bread was 6 cents a loaf, gas was 12 cents a gallon, the average car was $495, and the average house was about $3,395, and the income tax was 1%. So, as you can see, that this system over the long, 100 years has done nothing but reduce the value of the money system, which is exactly what it's not supposed to, what it's designed, supposedly not to do. And Bitcoin works the opposite way. So Bitcoin is international decentralized deflationary money versus the national centralized inflationary money. So the value of the dollar goes down and the value of the Bitcoin goes up. So if something goes down in value, you should usually get rid of it. If something goes up in value, you should usually acquire it. And we have a history since 2010, May 22nd. We have a history of the value of Bitcoin going up in a predominant way. Yeah, it's been going up and down and up. It's been going, has some high fluctuations, but the general trend is in the up direction. And you could say the same thing about the dollar. It hasn't always been completely in the down direction. Sometimes it levels off, or maybe even does a little bit better. But when you're looking at it very closely, you see these valuations. So what the difference is, you're going from digital to paper or material currency. And as we move further and further into the future, we have, people are going more and more digital. Almost everybody has a smartphone. I don't keep anything. If I want to lose something, give it to me on a piece of paper and I'll lose it. If I have it in a digital form, there's a much better chance I'll be able to find it and be able to access it. And a good way to explain this to people is with music. Do you go down to the store and buy a CD, or do you go to iTunes and buy the song you want?
Or an LP.
Huh?
You even ask me to go and buy a record.
Right. It's just so humanity is moving from inconvenience to more convenience. That's the direction that humanity is going. So the way Bitcoin is designed is, over the long run, is designed to increase in value. And I like telling people, the first known trade was done on May 22nd, 2010, where a guy in Fort Lauderdale sent 10,000 Bitcoins to a guy in England in exchange for 2 pizzas, and roughly for about $30 worth of pizza. And so 30 divided by 10,000 is $0.003 per Bitcoin. So that was the first known trade. And now they're selling for $280. So the general trend is in the up direction, and that's the way that it's designed to operate, is as more people use it and it becomes more used, then the value becomes higher, because there's only a fixed amount of Bitcoins that can ever be mined. And when they get mined, then as more people want to buy them, it's just supply and demand. So I just ask them, what would you rather have? A money that increases in value or decreases in value? And then the next thing I do is I want to get them to open a wallet, because I could talk about this, what Bitcoin is and what Bitcoin does, but until you actually experience how it works, then it really it doesn't really make a lot of difference to them. And I want this to be very concrete in their mind, and the value of how much they buy is really irrelevant. When I first got started, I was giving people like a little bit of a Bitcoin, a penny or something, like go on your show. And I was like, they're not getting it. I want to get some money, because in that way it's more, they understand that they're trading something of value that they value in their wallet for something else that's of value that can be exchanged. One way, it's like you're trading so many silver pieces for so many gold pieces. So I tell them, hey, we could talk all day. A picture's worth 1,000 words, and experience is worth 1,000 pictures, right? Let me show you how this works. So I ask them, what kind of phone do you have? And they'll usually pull out their phone. I go, do you have an Android or an Apple phone? They usually pull it out and say, here, I see which one they have, and they go, okay, go to your Apple Store, your App Store or your Google Play, and I want you. And I like using Mycelium. Mycelium seems to be the easiest wallet to use. I've done hundreds of thousands of dollars using Mycelium, and I haven't had a glitch yet. So I get them to download the app, and then I get to talk to them about, okay, now how much do you want to get? And how would you like to buy $1 worth? Get $1 worth. You don't say buy, because that's, I say, why don't you get $1 worth? And then, because most people, they can afford $1, and if they don't, well, I'll roll down to any amount. I've done like 8 cents before, because that's all they had in their pocket. But the thing is that, and I just want to get them understanding that they're exchanging one thing of value for another thing of value. And the way Bitcoin is designed is that this thing that they have that they're giving me is going to go down, and the thing that they're getting from me is going to go up. So then, after I get done talking to them, whether or not I open a wallet or not, I take a sticker, I take a Bitcoin sticker, and I take the sticker and I peel it off and I stick it. I don't even ask them. I go, here, now you know more about it than most people do. I just stick the sticker on them, and then now they're walking around the rest of the day, and they're advertising for me. And then maybe they get home, and, hey, honey, what's that sticker? Oh, I met this crazy guy and he talked to me about Bitcoin, and now he's mentioning it to other people, and that's what I want to have happen, is have them do the advertising for me, because I can only talk to so many people. And then I say, I'm real busy, I'd like to sit down with you and give you more information. I'm sure you're going to have questions about this, because this is a very, I'm going to encourage you to go to the internet, do your own research, and then let me text you, and I'll text them a message, and then send them, I'll say, hey, this is Morpheus, we talked about Bitcoin, then maybe a little later I'll send them another message, hey, check out this video, the We Use Coins video is a real good explanation. It's very short. I've done some podcasts, so I send them a copy of the podcast so then they can listen to that. I get to feel a little famous that way. And then after about a week, I'll give them some time and say, hey, what'd you think of that? What'd you like the most about it? Did you have any more questions? Answer their questions. Hey, let's sit down and have a cup of coffee, and we'll talk about it. And I like to wrap up with a quote from Mahatma Gandhi. He said, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, and then they fight you, and then you win. And so I think I really do believe that this is going to be the technology of the future.
Yeah, thank you. That's a very good way you approach it. And when he says he talks to everybody about Bitcoin, he's not kidding. I've been in a car with him where we're pulling out of the parking lot, and he talks to the parking attendant about Bitcoin.
I'd like to stop and I'd like to tell you about my Lord and Savior Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Well, it's like here's the thing. I mean, there is some with that, but the thing is, if you find something Bitcoin for me has changed my life. I mean, I really like how the effect of first of all, the people I get to meet, the environment that this is all bringing about. It brings about a world where people trust each other on a much higher level than what you normally would see in the world. I mean, you do thousands of $1,000 transactions with people, and you build up a trust factor a lot faster than if you just meet them and have a cup of coffee. So you end up trusting people on a much higher level than just the normal mundane situation. And so it's changed my life, and so I want to see other people have the benefit of this product, and I just wish that somebody would have just beat me over the head and said, hey man, you have to know about this because this is amazing. And when you show them how it works when you transfer the Bitcoins, I like to tell them, hey, it wouldn't have mattered if you were in China and I was in South Africa. This process is the same. And that gives people real power over their surroundings, much more so than what we currently have in the world.
What do you think is the biggest barrier to broader adoption of Bitcoin at this point in time?
Well, it's getting the right information, and that's where where we come in the physical world. Is just, hey, this is what it is. Let me share with you. You got to give us a reason to give. There's a nerve between the brain and the wallet. And you have to massage that brain-wallet connection. And once you massage that brain-wallet connection, they pull out their wallet, they give you $1, and then you give them 85 cents worth of Bitcoins. Well, but the thing is that
the discount you're working on?
Yeah.
$1 deals?
Yeah. I should make it more, but I don't want to. I want to take it easy on them. But the thing is, I want them to understand that this, like for example, when I first got started in Bitcoin, there was like 5 people on local Bitcoins, and I was like, how do I get these things? Because I don't have a bank account. And I went to local Bitcoins and I messaged like all 5 people. And no one called me back, and I'm going to make $1 million frickin' with this, because obviously these people don't know anything. And finally, I was able to get a hold of somebody, and he sold me my first Bitcoins, and I've been rocking and rolling ever since.
So what is the if like 4 or 5 months ago, if you took $1 from somebody and then gave them 85 cents, and now their 85 cents is worth 35 cents?
I tell them to buy some more.
What kind of positive interaction with that have you had with
I just tell them that now's the time to buy. You have to look at it. This is a long-term project, and yeah, of course, if you look at something very closely, you can see a lot of oscillate. Oh, here's a good example. If you take a billiard ball or the earth and shrink it down to the size of a billiard ball, the earth is actually smoother than a billiard ball, and it's got 29,000 feet up and 36,000 feet down. But if you shrink it down, it's actually smoother than a billiard ball. So what I'm saying is that when you look at just one little segment of it, 1 year out of this 5 years that we've had, well, yeah, there's going to be some fluctuations.
I gave someone $1 at $600 of Bitcoin. I got him on my ceiling wallet and gave him $1, and then I told them they need to go home and back up their private keys, and they never did. And the phone got ran over. That $1's gone forever.
Right?
Just a pretty negative interaction I had with a friend by giving him $1.
Well, did you tell them how to back it up?
I sure did.
Well, that's their fault. You gave them the information. If they don't follow it, that's.
I think he makes a good point, though. I tell when I interact with people, I tell them about Bitcoin. They're well ready to buy. I say, okay, when you buy, just be aware that this does fluctuate, and don't invest more than you're willing to lose, because you don't want the people to invest their life savings, see it go down, and have them have such a negative impact that they're never going to touch it again. So you want them to get just enough that they're interested. And if it goes skyrocketing, they're okay. But you don't want to get so much invested that when it goes down to 50%, they're going to sell immediately.
Right. Well, I do. That's more of a conversation that I have with people. When at the next meeting. I want. The thing is for me is I want to get them interested, or I want to at least get them committed enough to have something, because because it's like if you tell somebody something about anything, they're getting so much information all the time that the odds of them remembering anything you said is very low. But if you massage that brain wallet connection enough that they pull $1 out of their pocket and buy $1 worth of Bitcoin, they're going to at least remember you $1's worth.
I guess my question is, like, what's your retention rate? Like, how many of these people call you back in 3 weeks, 6 months, and say, hey, I'm still into this, or hey, I lost it, hey, I don't think about this anymore? I mean, what percentage do you come back to you and say, hey, I want to buy some more, or tell me more? Or,
I have customers that have probably spent. Let's turn off the thing here.
Well, what percentage is that?
That's true.
What's that percentage? Of the successful people you're still doing business with, what people you talk to?
Pull the battery out.